The EFL Championship is in serious trouble. What have the EFL got in store and what are they actually doing here? This is absolutely horrendous. And I think every single Championship fan and every single EFL fan should be up in arms about what they're thinking of doing right here with the news that has come out. If you're a Championship fan, then do hit subscribe on this channel. We do daily Championship content, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it only takes 1 second. If you're a fan of any club in the Championship, this is the place to be for Championship content. So do hit that subscribe button and do drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. That'd be very greatly appreciated as well. And let's jump straight into it. The news has come out that the EFL are considering expanding the Championship playoffs to 6 teams, adding an eliminator round. Now, they do this in the National League, and we'll have a look at what kind of the National League fans think of that. And it says here that the idea of this is to reduce the number of dead rubber matches at the end of the season, adding 2 additional high-profile games to the calendar, which, I mean, for me, it's a case of if it's not broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Championship, the whole format and the way the Championship is, it's the most competitive league in the world already. So to add more competitive games, there's less dead rubber games, I think is already a wild statement just to begin with. But we already know that the Championship is the most competitive league out of any division of them all. So in terms of dead rubber games, there's definitely less in the Championship than what there is in any other division. And you look at the Championship playoffs already, everybody loves the Championship playoffs. Even if people aren't Championship fans, there's Premier League fans, they might even tune into the Championship playoffs to see who goes up to the Premier League. But it's just so well known as being so exciting and so much drama in the Championship playoffs. Do you really need to add another 2 teams into that? And when I'm talking about it here, you go back to last season, that's probably the best way to look at it. You would have said then that Millwall and Blackburn would then get into the playoffs on 66 points, which again, they're only 2 points off Bristol City. So, you know, they're just as, they would have, you know, whoever got sick that season in the Championship out of Bristol City, Blackburn, Millwall, obviously we know it was Bristol City in the end. Blackburn and Millwall would have been equally as competitive as what Bristol City were. And in that game, obviously, Bristol City got absolutely smashed by Sheffield United in that playoff semi-final. And you never know, Blackburn or Millwall in 8th or whatever could have given them a better game. But how it would work is that Sheffield United in 3rd, say, last season, and Sunderland, they would get an instant bye into the next round of the playoffs. It'd be the quarter-final stage where you'd have 8th versus 5th, and then 6th versus 7th. That would be how it works. And it just sounds absolutely wild, doesn't it, to say that a team has an opportunity to get promoted to the Premier League finishing 8th in the Championship. Millwall literally had a negative goal difference, and they would have been able, that if them rules did apply, to get into the playoffs. And when it says more competitive, like, how much more competition do you want? And talking about dead rubber games, like, look at the Championship table and look at last season. You can go back to as many seasons as you want pretty much in the Championship. There's always an amazing battle for the playoffs. And as you can see there, it was an amazing battle. You had Bristol City, you had Coventry on the final day, you had Blackburn, you had Millwall, you had West Brom, I think might have just about been in there, Middlesbrough in there as well, all going into the last game with an opportunity to get into the playoffs. How much more competition do you want to have? And talk about dead rubber games, as I say, we can go down to the bottom of the Championship as well. As I say, you've got the bottom of the league here. You had all of those teams towards the bottom, and like even like with a few games left, of course, in the last couple of games of the season, you are going to get a couple of dead rubber games. That's absolutely just inevitable. You're going to get teams sat in the middle of the table, and you're still going to get that even with 8 teams in the potential playoffs, or 6 teams in the potential playoffs anyway. And as I say, look at the bottom of the table. You know, you've got Luton, who got relegated in 14. Look at how many teams were so close to getting relegated. That relegation battle on the final day, you know, you had Derby, Stoke, Preston, Hull, Luton already down? I can't remember. Then you had Luton. No, Luton weren't down. Luton, obviously, on the last day went down, and Plymouth were pretty much down, and Cardiff were already down as is. There was so much competition on that last game of the Championship anyway, at both sides of the table for playoffs and for the relegation battle. So talking about making it less dead rubber games, to me, is absolutely nonsense. And as I say, having a team then get promoted, have the opportunity to get promoted in 8th place is just absolutely ridiculous, because Sheffield United finished, 24 points? It was already a big enough gap between them and Bristol City. 24 points ahead of 8th place Millwall. And this is what I wanted to kind of bring up here with the National League, because you actually then think, obviously, yeah, with more opportunities, if people argue, you know, you get a different team potentially getting a chance of getting promoted, you have the same teams in the mix for promotion. But as I say, I just don't think it should be right of having a team finishing 8th to have the opportunity to get to the Premier League. In my personal opinion, 6th is the perfect way that they've got it now. And as I say, if it's not broken, there's no need to fix it. Now, this is what my problem is. This is what the problem is with the National League teams. As you can see here, these were the national teams. This is the final standings there. You had York, obviously the National League, only 1 team gets promoted automatically, and then you have 1 team to the playoffs. Now, York and Forest Green, 2nd and 3rd, got themselves a bye in that round. But it's actually, I mean, obviously it's an advantage that you do get a bye and you obviously enter the playoffs in a later date. But then you actually have to wait longer for your fixture. You have like a whole 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, before York played, York didn't have their semi-final game, and same with Forest Green, didn't have their playoff game until the 20th of May. The season didn't finish in the National League till about the start of May, maybe the 4th of May or something. Anyway, it was like that. So pretty much York City and Forest Green had 2 weeks off in that match, and it's like you've just finished the season, you got 2 weeks off then, and obviously all these other teams in the quarterfinal who finished at the bottom places, the 6th, 7th, they all have to play that extra playoff game, but they've still got that kind of match sharpness. And then you go into the next game where you've got the York City and the Forest Green there having 2 weeks off pretty much between the last game of the season and then their playoff semi-final, compared to their Oldham, which played a game 6 days before playing against York, and then Oldham, who finished on 73 points compared to York, who finished on 96, absolutely smashed them on the day. York City, 96 points, finished second, completely out of it in the playoff semi-final. Obviously, you can say they should have been better on the day, which is an absolute fair point. But then what my point is that York had a long period of time to then wait, which would be the same situation in the Championship, because whoever finished 3rd and 4th would then have to wait for that other playoff quarter-final fixture to take place, to then play again. And then, as I said, are they going to be 100% up to speed and ready to go for that playoff semi-final? There's an argument to be made that they probably wouldn't be, which then kind of gives them a disadvantage in that playoff semi-final up against whoever they're up against, despite getting that, of course, bye in the first round of the playoffs. And then you look at the Southend game as well. Southend also knocked out Forest Green. So the two teams that finished on 83 and 96, gone in the playoff semi-final. And then the two teams there, you can see it was 5th versus 7th, then ended up facing each other in the playoff final, where Oldham ended up getting promoted. So you can honestly make an argument, and I really do think, that you're not at an absolute advantage if you finish 3rd and 4th in the Championship and getting that bye, because then you're kind of a little bit off the speed going into the next game. And then this is such a big argument in the National League already. You're only going to imagine if this gets changed and say somebody does finish 7th or 8th and then ends up beating the team in 3rd or 4th in the playoffs, and then next minute everyone's complaining about, the team wasn't up to full match sharpness, they shouldn't be getting promoted. There's too much controversy, and there's absolutely nobody complaining about the current playoff system. Everybody loves the current playoff system that we've got right now. And there's also always an argument where people just bring it up and say that it should just be 3 up, 3 down. The top 3 get promoted and the bottom 3 get relegated. I think people also maybe say there even could be a relegation playoff where in the Premier League, 18th faces the team that finishes 3rd in the Championship. That's also a way, but I think the most ridiculous suggestion is putting 18th. I just think it sounds wild to have a team in 8th position with the opportunity to get Premier Football. In my opinion, that just shouldn't be a thing whatsoever. Obviously, as I say, it's a good opportunity for, say, like a Millwall or Blackburn, say this was the case last season, to get themselves in the Premier. Obviously, yeah, it's a great opportunity. It's a different team and all that. And you will probably get the same teams in the mix in terms of going for these kind of positions. And you maybe then, it gives an opportunity as well for, say, a team that underperformed. Say that season Sheffield United didn't have a great season, what we expected. They might have just snuck in at 8th place. And then it's like you've got the highest quality team, or one of the high quality teams in terms of players, then playing in the playoffs. And as I say, I don't think they deserve it. I think it should just be the top 6 that should be in there. And as I was talking about with the relegation playoff, or just having 3 up, 3 down, the top 3 and the top 3 get promoted to the Premier League and bottom 3 in the Premier League go down. I personally think that would be absolutely awful. I think it wouldn't be anywhere near as entertaining. It does kind of take away it brings in more dead rubber games and less entertainment for the Championship, because everybody loves the playoff drama. Everybody loves the battle for the playoffs. Everybody loves, say it was like this last season, you would have had Sheffield United absolutely cruise their way to 3rd place and then straight up to the Premier. Then that's just absolutely silly. In the relegation playoff, I think it's quite exciting, that one individual game, but absolutely nothing compares to the Championship playoffs and the drama of the Championship playoffs and the drama in getting to the Championship playoffs, because there's so many twists and turns throughout the 46 game season. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'd be very interested to get your thoughts on, would you want 80 or the top 8 have a chance of getting promoted to the Premier League and 6 teams in the playoffs, adding an extra 2 teams to the playoffs? In my personal opinion, I would go nowhere near that. I think the Championship is absolutely competitive enough as it is, and I think having the opportunity for a team in 7th and 8th to get themselves into the Premier League, I think is a little bit too far. And we already know, by the way, the gap between the Championship and the Premier League as well. The Premier League is obviously such a higher level than the Championship. Of course, the teams that have got promoted so far have got off to a really good start in terms of Leeds, Sunderland, and Burnley. Sunderland, of course, spent a lot of money, and of course, the teams have been competitive so far, but it is very, very early days. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Subscribe as well if you are new around here. It only takes 1 second. If you watch this point, you may as well hit that subscribe button. It'd be very greatly appreciated. As I say, we do daily Championship content. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.